Welcome to Dreamtale Sleep Stories. Tonight's reading is The Secret Life of Max the Dog. Settle into your bed or sofa and let your shoulders, jaw, and eyelids grow heavy. Inhale slowly, 1, 2, 3, and sigh the air away, allowing the day to fade into quiet dark. With every soft inhale, you invite fresh English phrases. With every gentle exhale, stray thoughts drift farther off. Behind my voice flows a gentle 528 Hz melody, renowned for guiding the mind toward deep relaxation. Keep your eyes closed or follow the captions, whichever feels right. Simply receive the rhythm and resonance of the language. Deep in rest, tonight's phrases will take root like seeds, ready to bloom into stronger English skills with the morning light. When you feel settled, hold that unhurried breath and allow yourself to drift into the tale. The secret life of Max the dog begins now, and when the story's final line has faded, the music will linger a little longer, carrying you gently deeper into sleep. The Secret Life of Max the Dog. Max was a 3-year-old golden retriever who lived in a quiet, suburban neighborhood with the Johnson family. During the day, he was just like any other dog. He played fetch with 10-year-old Emily, napped in sunny spots around the house, and wagged his tail whenever Mr. and Mrs. Johnson came home from work. The Johnsons loved Max dearly and thought he was simply a normal, happy pet dog. But what the Johnson family didn't know was that Max had a secret life that began every night after they went to sleep. Max possessed a special ability that most dogs didn't have. He could understand and communicate with other animals in complex ways. While he couldn't speak human words, he had developed an intricate system of barks, body language, and scent markers that allowed him to have detailed conversations with cats, birds, squirrels, and other neighborhood creatures. On a cool Tuesday evening in October, Max waited patiently in his bed until he heard Mr. Johnson's steady snoring from upstairs. Emily had been asleep for 2 hours, and Mrs. Johnson had just turned off her reading light. This was Max's signal that his nighttime work could begin. Max quietly padded to the kitchen, where he had learned to carefully operate the pet door that the Johnsons had installed for him. They thought he only used it during the day, but Max had discovered it was his perfect gateway to his secret nocturnal adventures. Once outside, Max made his way to the old oak tree in the backyard, where Whiskers, an experienced gray tabby cat, was waiting for him. Whiskers had been Max's first partner in what had become their unofficial neighborhood watch system. "Good evening, Max," Whiskers said in the complex animal language they shared. "We have a situation that requires your investigation skills." Max sat attentively, his golden ears perked forward. "What kind of situation, Whiskers?" "Mrs. Parker from 3 houses down has been very upset lately. Someone has been damaging her prize-winning flower garden every night for the past week. She's been crying about it during the day, and several of us animals have noticed how sad she looks. Mrs. Parker was an elderly widow who lived alone and spent most of her time caring for her beautiful garden. Max had often seen her talking to her flowers as if they were old friends, and he knew how much joy they brought her. "Have you seen who's been doing this?" Max asked. Whiskers shook his head. "That's the mystery. None of us have caught the culprit in the act, but every morning there are new holes dug in her flower beds, and several plants have been completely destroyed." Max nodded seriously. This was exactly the kind of problem he had become skilled at solving. Over the past year, he had helped resolve several neighborhood issues, from finding lost pets to preventing minor accidents, all while keeping his involvement completely secret from the humans. "I'll investigate tonight," Max decided. "Can you gather some of the other animals to help? We'll need to set up surveillance around Mrs. Parker's property." "Already done," Whiskers replied with a satisfied flick of his tail. Nutkin the squirrel is positioned in the maple tree that overlooks her backyard, and Charlie the robin has recruited several of his bird friends to watch from different angles. Max was impressed by how efficiently their animal network had developed. Each species contributed their unique strengths. Cats were excellent at moving silently and seeing in the dark. Squirrels could access high vantage points. Birds could cover large areas quickly. And Max himself could follow scent trails and think through complex problems. The two friends made their way through several backyards, moving carefully to avoid motion sensor lights and staying hidden from any late-night human activity. When they reached Mrs. Parker's property, Max immediately began his investigation. He started by carefully examining the damaged areas of the garden. Using his powerful nose, he detected several distinct scents. There was Mrs. Parker's familiar lavender perfume, the scent of her gardening gloves, and the various flower fragrances. But underneath these expected smells, Max found something else. A wild, earthy scent that definitely belonged to another animal. "Whiskers," Max called softly. "Come smell this." The cat approached and sniffed the area Max was investigating. "That's definitely rabbit," Whiskers confirmed. "But it's not just one rabbit. I can detect at least 3 different individual scents here." Max nodded and continued following the scent trail. It led him to a small gap in Mrs. Parker's fence that he hadn't noticed before. The hole was just large enough for a medium-sized rabbit to squeeze through. The trail continues into the woods behind her property, Max reported. "We need to follow it, but carefully. We don't want to scare them away before we understand what's happening." Max and Whiskers quietly slipped through the fence gap and into the wooded area beyond. The scent trail was easy to follow, and within 10 minutes, they discovered a small clearing where a family of rabbits had made their home. But as Max observed the rabbit family more closely, he realized that something was wrong. There were 2 adult rabbits and 3 smaller ones that appeared to be their children. All 5 rabbits looked thin and stressed, and their usual glossy fur appeared dull and unkempt. "They're not stealing Mrs. Parker's flowers for fun," Max whispered to Whiskers. "They're desperate for food." Max's keen observation skills allowed him to piece together what was happening. During the day, he had noticed increased construction activity in the area. A new shopping center was being built about half a mile away, and the construction had been expanding steadily. The heavy machinery and constant noise had likely disrupted the natural food sources that these rabbits depended on. "We need to find a solution that helps both Mrs. Parker and this rabbit family," Max decided. "Mrs. Parker gets to keep her beautiful garden, and these rabbits get the food they need to survive." Whiskers looked skeptical. "How can we possibly manage that without revealing ourselves to the humans?" Max was quiet for several minutes, thinking through various possibilities. Finally, his tail began to wag slightly, a sure sign that he had developed a plan. "I have an idea, but we'll need help from more of our animal friends, and we'll have to be very patient. This might take several weeks to fully implement." The next morning, Max behaved exactly like a normal dog. He ate his breakfast enthusiastically, played fetch with Emily before she left for school, and spent the afternoon napping in his favorite sunny spot by the living room window. But that evening, as soon as the Johnson family was asleep, Max began putting his plan into action. First, he needed to create a new food source for the rabbit family that wouldn't require them to destroy Mrs. Parker's flowers. Max had noticed that Mrs. Parker often threw away vegetable scraps and seeds when she cleaned out her small vegetable garden. If he could somehow arrange for some of those scraps to end up in the wooded area near the rabbit's home, it would provide them with the nutrition they needed. Max also realized he needed to find the rabbit family a safer, more permanent home. The construction activity was only going to get worse, and they would need to relocate eventually anyway. Working with his network of animal friends, Max began implementing his multi-part solution. Whiskers used his climbing abilities to carefully collect vegetable scraps from Mrs. Parker's compost pile during the night and transport them to the edge of the woods. Nutkin and the other squirrels helped by burying small caches of food in locations where the rabbits would naturally find them. Meanwhile, Charlie the robin and his bird friends scouted the entire neighborhood from above, looking for a suitable new location where a rabbit family could live safely without conflicting with human activities. After a week of this careful work, the rabbit family had enough food that they no longer needed to raid Mrs. Parker's flower garden. Mrs. Parker was delighted to see her flowers recovering, and she spent extra time each day tending to the damaged areas. But Max knew this was only a temporary solution. The rabbit family still needed a permanent home, and the construction activity was getting closer to their current location. Charlie returned from his scouting missions with good news. "There's a large park about a mile north of here," he reported to Max during one of their nighttime meetings. "It has plenty of natural food sources, and there are already several rabbit families living there successfully. The new family would fit in well." The challenge now was how to encourage the rabbit family to relocate to the park. Max couldn't simply approach them and explain the situation. While he could communicate with domestic animals like cats and dogs, wild rabbits were much more skittish and wouldn't trust him. Max developed an ingenious solution. Working again with his network of friends, they created a trail of food that gradually led from the rabbit's current home toward the park. Each night, they placed small amounts of food a little bit farther along the route, making it seem like a natural foraging path. It took 3 weeks, but eventually the rabbit family began following the food trail during their nightly searches for dinner. When they discovered the park, with its abundant food sources and existing rabbit community, they decided to stay. Mrs. Parker's garden remained undisturbed, and she never knew that her beloved flowers had been saved by the coordinated efforts of the neighborhood animals. But Max's most challenging case was yet to come. On a rainy Thursday evening in November, Max was awakened by frantic scratching at the Johnsons' back door. He quietly made his way to the kitchen and found Whiskers waiting for him, looking more agitated than Max had ever seen him. "Max, we have a serious emergency," Whiskers said as soon as Max opened the pet door. Little Sarah Mitchell, from 2 streets over, went missing this afternoon. The humans have been searching for hours, but they haven't found her yet. Max's heart began racing. Sarah was only 4 years old, and Max had often seen her playing in her backyard when he went on walks with Emily. The thought of a small child, lost and frightened somewhere in the dark, made Max more determined than ever to help. "Tell me everything you know," Max said urgently. Sarah was playing in her backyard around 3 o'clock this afternoon, Whiskers explained. Her mother went inside to answer the phone, and when she came back 5 minutes later, Sarah was gone. The humans have been searching the neighborhood with flashlights and calling her name, but there's been no sign of her. Max knew that a 4-year-old child wouldn't have wandered very far on her own. But in the dark and rain, even a short distance could be dangerous. Sarah could be cold, scared, and possibly injured. "We need to organize every animal in the neighborhood," Max declared. "This is more important than anything we've ever done before." Within an hour, Max had assembled the largest animal search team he had ever coordinated. Whiskers brought every cat within a 6-block radius. Charlie gathered not just robins, but also sparrows, blue jays, and even a few owls whose excellent night vision would be invaluable. Nutkin recruited squirrels from dozens of trees, and even some of the more cautious animals like raccoons and possums volunteered to help. Max divided the search area into sections and assigned different animal teams to each zone. The birds would search from above, looking for any signs of movement or bright colors that might be Sarah's clothes. The cats would check small, enclosed spaces where a frightened child might hide. The squirrels would search the trees and elevated areas, and Max himself would use his superior sense of smell to try to pick up Sarah's scent. As the search began, Max realized they had one major advantage over the human search teams. Animals could access areas that humans couldn't reach easily, like dense bushes, drainage pipes, and small spaces under porches or sheds. The search continued through the night with no success. Max was beginning to worry that Sarah might have wandered beyond their neighborhood, possibly into the busy commercial area where she could be in serious danger. Just as dawn was beginning to break, one of the owls returned with news. "I found her," the owl reported breathlessly. "She's about 8 blocks away, near the construction site for the new shopping center. She appears to be unharmed, but very scared and cold." Max's heart sank. The construction site was not only far from Sarah's home, but it was also filled with dangerous machinery and deep excavation holes. A small child could easily be seriously injured there. "How did she get so far away?" Whiskers asked. "It looks like she was chasing a cat," the owl explained. "You know how curious young humans can be. The cat probably didn't realize it was leading her so far from home." Max made a quick decision that he knew would be risky for his secret identity, but Sarah's safety was more important than anything else. "I'm going to go get her myself," he announced to the assembled animals. "But I'll need all of your help to make this work without revealing what we've been doing." Max's plan was complex but necessary. He would need to reach Sarah and somehow guide her to safety while making it appear to any humans who might see them that he was just a lost dog who had coincidentally found the missing child. The animal team spread out to create a communication network between the construction site and Sarah's neighborhood. Birds would relay messages about the movements of human search parties, while ground animals would help clear obstacles from the path Max planned to take back. Max ran the 8 blocks to the construction site faster than he had ever run before. When he arrived, he found Sarah huddled behind a large piece of construction equipment, crying softly and shivering from the cold and rain. Max approached her slowly and gently, not wanting to frighten her further. Sarah looked up at him with tear-filled eyes. "Doggy?" she said in a small, scared voice. Max wagged his tail and moved closer, allowing Sarah to put her arms around his warm, dry fur. He could feel her shaking from cold and fear, and he knew he had to get her home as quickly as possible. But Max also knew he couldn't simply lead Sarah directly home. That would make it obvious that he had deliberately found her. Instead, he needed to guide her toward the human search teams while making it look natural. Using the communication network his animal friends had established, Max learned that the main group of human searchers was currently about 4 blocks away and moving in their direction. Max needed to intercept them with Sarah in a way that would seem coincidental. Max gently encouraged Sarah to follow him by walking a few steps and then stopping to look back at her. Sarah, trusting the friendly dog who had found her, began to walk with him. As they made their way through the early morning streets, Max's bird friends kept him informed about the location of the search parties. When they were getting close to the main group of searchers, Max began barking loudly, something he normally never did during his nighttime activities. His barking served 2 purposes. It would attract the attention of the human searchers, and it would wake up residents in the nearby houses, some of whom would hopefully come outside and see Sarah being rescued. The plan worked perfectly. Within minutes, Max could hear human voices calling Sarah's name and getting closer. When the searchers found Sarah walking down the sidewalk with Max beside her, They assumed that Max was a neighborhood dog who had coincidentally discovered the lost child. Sarah was quickly reunited with her frantic parents, and Max was praised as a hero by the grateful search team. Several people commented on what a smart and intuitive dog he was for finding Sarah and staying with her. Max played his part perfectly, acting like an excited, friendly dog who was pleased with all the attention but didn't really understand what had happened. He accepted the pats and praise graciously, then made his way back to the Johnson house before his own family woke up and discovered he was missing. Later that morning, when Emily and her parents read about Sarah's rescue in the local news, they were proud to hear that a dog described as looking very similar to Max had been the hero of the story. Max would have done the same thing. Wouldn't you, boy? Emily said, scratching behind Max's ears as he wagged his tail and tried to look modestly heroic. As the weeks passed, Max continued his double life with even greater dedication. Word of the successful search for Sarah had spread throughout the animal community, and Max found himself being consulted by animals from neighborhoods far beyond his own. A family of raccoons asked for his help when their favorite food source, a restaurant dumpster, was being protected by a new security system. Max helped them find alternative food sources while also identifying which nights the security system was turned off for maintenance. A group of stray cats needed assistance dealing with a human who was trying to have them removed from the abandoned building where they had been living. Max orchestrated a campaign where the cats demonstrated their value by controlling the rat population in the area, making it clear to local business owners that the cats were actually beneficial to have around. Each case taught Max more about the delicate balance between the human and animal worlds. He was becoming not just a problem solver, but a bridge between two communities that rarely understood each other. However, Max began to notice that Emily, his 10-year-old human companion, was paying more attention to his behavior than usual. She had started making comments about how smart and intuitive he seemed, and Max wondered if she was beginning to suspect that there was more to him than met the eye. One evening in December, Max's suspicions were confirmed. He had just returned from helping resolve a dispute between two territorial tomcats when he discovered Emily sitting in the kitchen, apparently waiting for him. "Hi, Max," she said quietly as he came through the pet door. "You've been going out a lot at night lately." Max froze, unsure how to react. Emily was looking at him with an expression that seemed much too mature and knowing for a 10-year-old. "I know you're different from other dogs, Max," Emily continued in a whisper, clearly not wanting to wake her parents. "I've been watching you, and I think you understand a lot more than most people realize." Max sat down and looked at Emily carefully. He had always sensed that she was more perceptive than most children, but he hadn't realized she had been observing him so closely. "I don't know exactly what you do when you go out at night," Emily said, "but I think you help other animals, don't you?" like how you somehow found little Sarah when all the grown-ups couldn't. Max considered his options. He could continue pretending to be an ordinary dog, but Emily clearly already knew he was special. On the other hand, involving a human in his secret activities could be dangerous for both of them. Emily seemed to understand his dilemma. "I won't tell anyone, Max. I promise. But maybe I could help sometimes. I know I'm just a kid, but I care about animals too." Max looked into Emily's earnest eyes and made a decision that would change both of their lives. He walked over to her and gently placed his paw on her hand. Not in the casual way dogs usually touched humans, but in a deliberate, meaningful gesture that Emily immediately understood as acceptance. From that night forward, Max had a human partner in his neighborhood protection activities. Emily proved to be incredibly valuable. She could go places and do things that animals couldn't. And she had access to human information and resources that greatly expanded their problem-solving capabilities. Their first joint case came just a week later, when an elderly man named Mr. Green began showing signs of confusion and forgetfulness that were causing problems for the entire neighborhood. Small items had been disappearing from various houses, toys from front yards, mail from mailboxes, garden tools left outside. The human neighbors were beginning to suspect theft and were considering calling the police. But Max's investigation had revealed the truth. Mr. Green was suffering from early-stage dementia and was unconsciously collecting items during his evening walks, not remembering what he had done by the next morning. Emily's involvement was crucial to solving this case sensitively. While Max identified the pattern and located the missing items in Mr. Green's garage, Emily was able to alert her parents in a way that seemed natural about her concerns for Mr. Green's well-being. Emily's parents, along with other concerned neighbors, gently approached Mr. Green's family about getting him medical attention and additional support. The missing items were quietly returned, and Mr. Green received the help he needed without any embarrassment or legal troubles. As winter turned to spring, Max and Emily's partnership continued to grow stronger. They developed an efficient system of communication. Emily learned to recognize Max's different barks and body language signals, while Max became skilled at understanding Emily's subtle hand signals and whispered instructions. Their success rate in solving neighborhood problems was remarkable. They prevented a family of opossums from being exterminated by helping them relocate to a more suitable habitat. They identified a gas leak that human authorities hadn't detected, potentially preventing a serious accident. They even helped an elderly woman reconnect with her estranged daughter by arranging a series of coincidental encounters that reminded both women of what they had been missing. But perhaps their most significant case came in late spring, when a development company announced plans to demolish the small park where Max had helped relocate the rabbit family months earlier. The park was home to dozens of animal families and was also a beloved gathering place for neighborhood children and their parents. Both the human and animal communities would suffer if it were destroyed. But the development company had all the necessary legal permits. This case required Max and Emily to work together more closely than ever before. Emily organized the human side of the resistance by helping the adult neighbors understand the environmental and community value of the park. She researched zoning laws, environmental protection regulations, and community organizing strategies. Meanwhile, Max coordinated the animal community to document all the species that lived in or depended on the park. With help from Charlie and the other birds, they created a comprehensive survey of the local wildlife that exceeded what any human naturalist could have accomplished alone. The combination of Emily's human community organizing skills and Max's animal network intelligence gathering created a powerful force for change. The neighborhood successfully petitioned the city council to designate the park as a protected green space, and the development company was forced to find an alternative location for their project. As Max looked back on all their adventures together, he realized that his secret life had evolved into something much more meaningful than he had originally imagined. He was no longer just a dog with unusual abilities who helped solve neighborhood problems. He had become a bridge between the human and animal worlds, working to create a community where both could thrive together. Emily had grown too, becoming more confident, more aware of the natural world around her, and more committed to helping others. Their partnership had taught both of them that the most important problems in the world couldn't be solved by humans alone or by animals alone. They required cooperation and understanding between all living beings. On quiet evenings, when there were no cases to solve and no emergencies to address, Max and Emily would sit together in the Johnsons' backyard, looking up at the stars and planning how they might expand their work to help even more communities. Max's secret life was no longer truly secret, at least not from Emily, but it had become something far more valuable than a secret. It had become a mission, a partnership, and a model for how different species could work together to create a better world for everyone. The neighborhood around them had become safer, more connected, and more harmonious than it had ever been before. And Max knew that this was just the beginning of what they could accomplish together. As he settled down for another night's sleep, Max reflected on how much his life had changed since that first evening when Whiskers had approached him about Mrs. Parker's damaged garden. He had discovered not only his own potential to make a difference, but also the incredible power that came from building bridges between different communities and different worlds. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new mysteries, and new opportunities to help. Max closed his eyes, content in knowing that whatever problems arose, he and Emily would face them together, supported by their extended family of animal friends and human neighbors who were slowly learning to see their community through new eyes. The secret life of Max the dog had become something much more than secret. It had become a legacy of cooperation, understanding, and hope that would continue to grow and inspire others for many years to come.